On Sunday, the 7th of April, Mathieu van der Poel was winning at Paris-Roubaix on the famous velodrome. Meanwhile, several minutes behind, Cyrus Monk was on one of the many, many sectors of cobbles that he still had to complete to finish the course. He did finish and was the last finisher at the Roubaix Velodrome, although the result sheet just shows that he's out of time. It's a truly monumental effort, and his story is incredibly important. So I thought it was only right that I sat down and interviewed him. Um, we had a great chat, and yeah, this is his story, his career so far, and I really hope you enjoy it. So thank you so much
Oh,
for joining me. Like, how's things going?
no worries. Thanks for having me on. Last few days have been pretty rough in terms of feeling pretty tired and pretty sore, and it's been nice to have some time to chill out and relax actually after a pretty long classics campaign. So yeah, it's been good to go on the go slow for a few days.
Yeah, I guess the obvious question is how's the hands feeling? Because as I will have said in the intro, like it's a pretty gnarly and grueling
Yeah, like you see
race.
my hands here. So I got some blisters on this, and then the back of the other hand, that's from just a crash actually a few weeks ago. But uh, the hands is the worst just because anytime you try to use them for anything, I just end up knocking my hands on something and knocking all the old wounds
Mm.
off. So it's hasn't been the nicest thing to be dealing with the last few days. But yeah, I think it's the same for everyone in the peloton.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, it's the obvious route in. So let's talk about Paris-Roubaix for a bit. Like, how was that race for you? I know it's been quite well documented already. You were the last person to arrive at the velodrome. Um, like, I guess my first question is like, was there any point en route that you're like, I could probably just get in the broom wagon and you know get carted to the finish and get my feet up, get a cup of tea, have it easy.
No, there was no point where I wanted to even thought about getting in the broom wagon because there was yeah, it's not the nicest place to be, and I wouldn't have liked to have been sitting in there anyway. So there was any the only time I thought I might have to was just when I had the double puncture on Arenberg and there wasn't any team staff with spare wheels there. So it was never going to be my choice to get in. I'd already made a deal with myself before the start of the race that I was finishing unless I was in an ambulance. So I wasn't going to let any mechanicals stop me. And down to it, I probably would have started asking people on the side of the road to use their bike to get to the finish and then swap back with them once we got there. But yeah, it never really crossed my mind to actually get in the broom wagon.
Wow, like, because to me, I'm like, like I'm only a hobby cyclist, but I'll do about 80k, and that's about my limit. I'm like, I want to be home now. I'm kind of crawling there. Uh, so to do 260 kilometers, and like, how much of that was on your own?
I think was working it out before, and I honestly think around 150 of it was by
No
myself,
way.
just because we hit the first sector about 95 k's in, and then yeah, from then I had the puncture, and then I kept catching people, but they would basically just sit on my wheel and then just pull in at the next feed zone because there was still so far to go, and then yeah, I caught a good sized group just before Ironberg and then double punctured and then right at the start. And then by the time I got through there, kept riding until I found someone to change wheels with. Then they were, yeah, 10 minutes further in front of me. So then it was completely on my own. Didn't see another rider from there to the finish. But it was never really on my own because there's just still people everywhere on the sides of the road, like every town, just people lining the sides of the road. Uh, every sector still people partying, drinking, having barbecues, whatever. So it wasn't like I was out there, yeah, completely by myself. The atmosphere was honestly still incredible, but yeah, from a racing perspective, it was very much a solo expedition from then on.
Do you think that helped that so many people were on, like, because if it was some like midweek race that was kind of not as
Yeah,
big?
yeah, definitely. And it yeah, helped. That definitely just put some wind in my sails as I was going over those sectors, especially knowing all the sectors and having watched the race so many times before. To get to go through there with still having crowds there was pretty incredible, considering that the main, well, there wasn't a peloton at that stage, I guess, but the actual race had passed long ago. So that was really cool to be a part of. Still just having that support on the side of the road, and that definitely helped me keep going as well.
Mm. Just quickly for context, like 150k is that's like about 100 miles, just short of,
Yeah,
like
just
in
less than 100 miles. Yeah.
UK, like that's
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess like, how does it feel? Because obviously the sectors count down, which in some ways I guess is good. In other ways, if you're like, oh, brilliant, I've done 24 sectors, but I've still got five
Yeah.
for, and like the Carrefour de Lavre, which is like one of the hardest sectors as sector 4, like,
Yeah. For me, it was very much just I knew Arenberg was coming. So, and initially, because I had the puncture and I was out of the race, it was obviously thinking of getting to the velodrome, but also I was just thinking, I want to race through the forest of Arenberg in Paris-Roubaix, if I don't even get anywhere else. And then by the time I'd got to there, I think that's sector 20, and then there's still plenty to go. But yeah, then I just thought, I'm going to keep riding because I've got get the spare wheels. And then yeah, they were ticking down pretty slowly. And then I remember getting to sector 15 and thinking, I'm only halfway through the cobble sectors now, so I've still got this many to go. But then I knew, I was just sort of ticking off things. I knew Mont Saint Pavel was a really famous one, and I wanted to get to
mm,
that because I knew that was really hard. And I was just thinking, if I get through that, then there's really only Carrefour de l'Arbre that's the really hard one. Because at that point, I was just worried about getting another puncture because I knew then I was going to be completely done in terms of trying to find any actual spares from within the race, and then I'd have to be getting assistance from outside the race, which is already then worrying about DQs and fines, even though it wasn't going to influence the race at all. But then it was yeah, I had some friends as well on. I knew they're always on sector 8, so I was thinking, okay, get to there, and then I got a big cheer from them, and then yeah, just ticking off the sectors one by one almost helped mentally, rather than yeah, I personally I never had the kilometers up there because I just thought if I look at that, it's going to be too depressing seeing still 100 k's to go or still 60 k's to go. Instead, I was just riding until I saw the sector, and then I'd hit the sector and just keep looking until I saw that archway that shows that it's the end of the sector, and really wasn't thinking about too much else other than just keep riding.
God, 'cause yeah, like keeping your motivation up, I guess, was it harder mentally than physically, like for you?
Yeah, I honestly think it was more of and then the physical challenge can't also be underestimated because just the toll that the cobbles take, especially the yeah, I wasn't able to hit them at the speed that you'd get from riding with a peloton. So it was really just hard to keep the momentum on, just getting rattled around everywhere on those cobbles. And then yeah, I think then it was just super tricky to yeah to mentally focus on something other than how long there was to go. Obviously, once I started getting closer to the finish, then the mental challenge becomes less and just physically more tired. But yeah, it was yeah, and then also I wasn't expecting my hands to start falling apart with blisters, and then that started happening. I started holding the bars differently on each sector, and I couldn't use certain hand positions that I had been earlier on just because my hands were torn apart from that. So yeah, it was tough in all ways, really.
Yeah, and how did it feel like once you passed that last sector at Hem and then get to the actual velodrome? Like, what feeling does that give you, knowing that you'd finally made that right hand turn to get there?
Yeah, that was pretty incredible when I got to that point. To yeah, essentially once I got past Carrefour de Labre, I knew I was going to make it because I knew the last few sectors weren't as much risk of a puncture. They weren't so long. I knew I had the tailwind home, and then yeah, turning in there was pretty crazy. I was just amazed by the crowd that was still there, and just the feeling of like I'd watched that race so many times and watched just replays in the lead up just to get the motivation for the race. Obviously, I'd hoped that I'd be going in there with more luck and going for a result rather than just to finish, but still to make that turn into the velodrome was pretty incredible. And then to get to still finish inside the velodrome was something that was definitely made all of the suffering during the race worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'd like to rewind quite a huge amount now, and
Yeah.
go back to the start of your career. Like, how do you like everyone's journey's different, and I love how different it is. So, like, what was your route into cycling? How did you become a cyclist, essentially?
I started when I was 9 years old, I think. So
Wow.
I've been following the sport for a long time. I would have been watching the stuff like the Tour de France and Paris-Roubaix from a little bit before then, but yeah, started racing on the track. Basically, my dad was into riding, into some local club races, and he'd take me along to watch the local club races when he was racing, and then got to the point where I was able to join in with a few of the races and tick along with them, and then yeah, it then morphed into joining the local club, Warragul Cycling Club in Victoria, Australia, and we were I was racing on the velodrome there. Just some little bunch races amongst the other juniors there, and then just kept going with local racing. I was still playing a lot of other sports, and then it wasn't really until I finished school and stopped playing other sports that I actually started pursuing the riding more as let's see how far I can go with this thing rather than just doing it for a nice fun hobby.
Yeah, and at what point did you start going, oh, actually, this could be, a career where I can make a living and, whether Europe was on the cards or not, at what point did you think, oh yeah, I could definitely become pro now?
It really wasn't until probably until I got a stagiaire role, like a traineeship. I guess it's the translation is with
Mhm.
EF. At the time, it was Cannondale Drapac, so what's been the Slipstream family. But when I got a stagiaire with them in 2017, just based off results in amateur racing in Belgium, amateur racing in Australia, and then even the Herald Sun Tour in Australia, which is a UCR race, which hasn't been on the calendar for a while now, but I did a pretty good ride there, and then got the opportunity to race with the World Tour team overseas. And that was then when I thought, oh, hang on a second, there might actually be an opportunity to make a living out of this rather than just do it as a hobby, which I enjoy on the side of doing other things.
Yeah, and I found it really curious that there's a result that won't be on Remco. Like he's never going to have it on this Palmares, but like winning the university university championships, I guess, like university worlds. I don't even know how to call it properly, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, World University Championships. Yeah,
yeah.
that one is definitely it's one I still really look back on fondly because
Hmm.
I got a rainbow jersey out of it. It's definitely a different rainbow jersey
Oh,
to what other people do, but I got to wear that in the Australian University Championships and in a few other university races, and the uni was really happy about it. But that was also a time where I thought, oh, hang on a second, because that was my first international race. It was the first time
yeah.
racing outside of Australia. It was in the Philippines, and there was a heap of
Oh, no
European and
way.
continental riders there. It was in March in the Philippines, so it was filthy hot there. And I think all the Europeans had come out of winter, and I'd come out of an Australian
Oh,
summer.
yeah.
And I was flying, and they were just suffering in the heat. So it was good for a big advantage for me, and then also to win that race against some European riders who these guys weren't pros, but they were still riders that had done some high level racing. And I thought, oh, hang on, if I can beat these guys here, then maybe it's something that I can can actually go over. That was sort of gave me a bit of inspiration to go over to Europe later that season as well, and yeah, start racing there and see how far I could go from then on.
Oh, that's amazing. 'Cause, yeah, it's like I didn't even know that race existed. Like I've been to uni, I've done a bit of cycling. We've got like the British University and College
Yeah.
sports. I think that, yeah, Bucks. You know, like we do some racing, but I didn't even know that the World University Championships even existed, let alone, that it's winnable. Um, it's kind of crazy. Like, also, what did you study at uni? 'Cause that always
Uh,
intrigues me. Like,
Yeah, so I studied Bachelor of Science with a major in physiology. So I
wow.
actually started my science degree thinking, maybe I want to be an engineer, or I started a broad degree because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and then I found that I wasn't actually enjoying. While I was okay at the math side of things, I wasn't actually enjoying the the theory and the subjects as much. And then the at Melbourne University, where it was, I had to do some subjects from outside my field,
Hmm.
and then I sort of took on. I think I took on sport coaching as one of the subjects, and then took on a few more of the biology side of things, and then that worked towards the physiology. And as I was getting better in the cycling, that became quite relevant then, because the obviously human physiology and sports physiology ties in really well with cycling and high performance sport. So then those started going really hand in hand, and I started working, yeah, being able to actually use stuff that I was learning to help me in my cycling, and also even the nutrition and sports nutrition side of things. I was able to study that a little bit at university as well. So they started working hand in hand, and then I started racing more and more in Europe, and it was really difficult to be studying in Australia while racing in Europe. So I was really fortunate the university supported me in doing that, and I was able to study some things while abroad, and then also just delay some assignments and exams until I was back in Australia to be able to do them. But yeah, I'm really happy I did that study, because it's definitely helped me now, and then also it's something that I've got to fall back on once my days of riding are over.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, I'd be worried though, like that I'd have a little bit of knowledge and use that. Like, if a coach told me to do something, I was like, actually, like that's actually not good practice, and like,
Yeah, it's definitely meant that I do question coaching that I've had more, but also I've always had coaches that are very evidence-based and science-based. So that's worked well in terms of being able to bounce ideas off them. And also I'm often not having to question as much as I might if I had more of a coach that was just purely experience-based and going off, oh, this is what we've always done, so this is what you should do. So I've usually fit in quite well with the coaches then, and then also being able to, if I ask for clarification on something, and having the knowledge and the skill set to read a scientific paper on the matter, rather than just having to go off what some Instagram or YouTuber has posted, we're saying how we should all train, and this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. Instead, I can actually look at the source that the information's coming from, and be able to understand and apply those things to my own training, and yeah, and trust the process, that what I'm doing is actually going to be useful, rather than just something that everyone does, so maybe I should do it as well.
hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I think having such a diverse background kind of really helps. And as you said, like having that to fall back on is incredible. I really like the journey you've had in many ways, like coming up through the Australian system. Um, was it Pat's Veg was one of your teams, which is an
Yeah.
incredibly iconic name, but I'm like, yeah, more teams should be named that way.
Yeah,
Um,
Pat's Veg cycling team. I still really look back fondly on that team. I was really good friends with Pat, who was the owner of Pat's Veg and the team. But that was literally just a team sponsored by Pat's Veg, which was a company or business, or it was basically a little shop where we made sauerkraut and pickles and kimchi and different kind of fermented vegetables. And yeah, at the time I was studying, and the team was not a high budget team. We didn't have the money to pay riders, but I ended up working in the shop. So I was delivering the cabbages to the shop. I'd go to the cabbage farm, which was near my parents' house, and I'd pick up 300 kilos of cabbage every Tuesday morning, and then spend every Tuesday. I had no classes for university, so I'd spend all my Tuesdays chopping up cabbages and yeah, putting them in brine ready to be pickled. And then if we were lucky, we'd get through the processing in time that I could do this local race on Tuesday nights with Pat, the owner, who was also a rider as well. Still is racing at quite a high level himself, but yeah, then we'd make sure that we got through all the processing of the cabbage that day, so we could go and do the local criterium that night. But those days I still look back on with fond memories, and yeah, it's unfortunately that team's not around, but it's little teams like that wasn't even continental for a few years. It was just an amateur team, but those kind of teams, and I know the UK has similar, is what gives people their start in the sport. And we really just need teams like that to give people a chance to actually see what the sport's all about, get them in there racing to some level, and then allow them to grow on to bigger things in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, speaking of the UK scene very briefly, like we've got a kind of version of Paris-Roubaix. It's not the same at all, but like the
Yeah,
60
I've
Classic.
heard of it. Yep.
I think if this goes out in time, it's on the 28th of April. So I'm
Yep.
hoping that I'll be actually able to watch it because it's not too far from me. I've just never been. It's
Yep.
kind of wild. But yeah, it's that sort of thing that is the lifeblood, as you say, of the
Yeah.
scene. And
Yep.
without that, you don't get
Definitely.
the pros.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I feel there's definitely less of those kind of teams in Australia now. And
Mm.
it is even, I know the UK is suffering, Australia is suffering as well from, there's just a struggle for that pathway to get there. I coach and mentor a lot of riders in Australia, and I'm always getting asked for advice on where should I go, what should I do for this kind of thing. And now it's a bit sad that I'm just having to tell Australian riders the only way that they can find a pathway is to move overseas, which is tough because then essentially then you're giving away any chance of being able to work part-time on the side, because then you're getting a work visa either in a European country with a lot of racing is really difficult, or moving to an Asian continental team that has those racing opportunities to be noticed. But then, you're really sacrificing every other aspect of your life, which for some people, when you get the returns and become a professional, then it's worthwhile. For others, you can be really just struggling to make ends meet to get there. But I think for anyone to make that kind of sacrifice to pick up their life and move away, you have to also just be able to enjoy, make sure that you're still enjoying the sport and enjoying your life, rather than just seeing it as I need to get to a pro level, so that's why I'm investing all of this. Instead, just make sure that if you're having that experience of having to move overseas to chase the dream, that you're actually enjoying the journey rather than just being too fixated on the destination.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention the sort of Asian teams rather, and that journey, because it's not been straight or like linear in many ways for you. Like as far as I can tell, like you were with Evo Pro, which is were they Irish technically? I forget.
Yeah,
Like
Irish team. Yeah.
and then there's the I'm gonna say the name wrong, so I won't bother. The Taiwanese team.
Yeah, Team Mayo.
Oh, it was Mayo. Yes,
Yeah.
I would have guessed that, but I didn't
Yeah.
trust myself.
Yeah, that was great.
To then end up on 36.5, like how just I guess how do you pick the teams to join? Is it just who's got space? And I kind
Honestly,
of
honestly, you'd be and they like from speaking to other riders, it's pretty similar. Often it's just you don't have. It's not like there's a lot of choices at a continental level, especially when you're trying to look for a team that isn't from your own country. They're often, like most continental teams, if you have an Italian continental team, it'll take only Italian riders. If you have a Polish continental team, it's only taking Polish riders. Just so happened that when I wasn't successful in getting a full-time contract with EF, then it was a matter of, okay, I want to keep racing in Europe. I know I've got what it takes to race at a higher level. The Australian teams at the time weren't racing enough in Europe that I would have maybe had 4 or 5 race days to show myself in Europe, which
Mm.
obviously, yeah, you can have a bit of luck, but you're also in that kind of racing in Belgium where the Australian teams tend to go over to race. All it takes is just you can invest so much, have a crash or be in the wrong place at the wrong time in one of those races, and then it's all over, and you've spent a year and gotten nowhere. So for me, I wanted to have a full season of racing in Europe, and yeah, there was an Irish team that popped up called Evo Pro that then they were happy to take riders from anywhere. They obviously wanted to be majoritively Irish riders, but the Ireland scene at the time wasn't strong enough to have a team full of purely Irish guys. So they wanted some experience from elsewhere and some expertise from elsewhere. So yeah, I was able to get a ride with them, and then yeah, that team essentially just straight up ran out of money, and then I was really just stuck again trying to find another team. Couldn't find a team at all anywhere in Europe that would take me on. By that stage, yeah, it was getting 25 isn't old, but in terms
Mm.
of cycling, it is old. So then, yeah, and this Asian team, one of the Australian riders on the team just messaged me and said, "Hey, mate, really surprised to see that you're looking for a team, but if you ever wanted to join us, you're more than welcome." And it was a team that I knew had raced a bit in Europe before, had raced in the US before, had raced in Asia before. Pretty good program. Knew that it wasn't going to be a team that was able to pay me any money, but I was happy to work in Australia and then just get some nice racing. By this stage, it wasn't I need to be racing here so that I can get seen by a world tour team. It was just I enjoy racing my bike. I wanted to
Mm.
keep doing some pro level races, and these guys had a calendar that was pretty cool. I'd get to race in a lot of places, and yeah, I went to that team, had the full support of the team at the races that I did with them, and was able to take some really nice results there in the Asian races and in the US as well. Was working full time whenever I was in Australia, but still able to train before and after work. And then I think I was pretty relaxed. I wasn't focused. I wasn't feeling too much pressure, and was taking some really nice results. And then the Q36.5 team started up. Like Doug Ryder started that up, sort of from essentially from scratch, but with a bit of help from sponsors and staff from his previous team. And the biggest benefit for riders was that there's 25 spots to be filled. So
Yeah.
I was, yeah, there all of a sudden I'd always been searching for this 1 or 2 spots in a team that was available for the next season. And then all of a sudden there's a team with 25 spots. And yeah, that I was able to fit into one of those spots. So then it was, yeah, it wasn't something that I actually expected at that point. I was happy just riding my bike and working on the side, to more for enjoyment, and then yeah, was doing a reasonable enough job of it that I was noticed and picked up, and then got to actually had the pro career that I dreamed of since I was a little kid riding around that velodrome.
Nice. And then obviously, yeah, you've had this massive classics campaign this year. Lot of classics on there. Like Le Sama. I'm trying to find. Sorry, I'm looking at the other screen, so apologies because you'll see the side of my face. But like all these Knocker Curza, Dena, Depana,
Yeah,
like Genvavogem, Dwasdor,
yeah,
that race that killed the
yeah, yeah,
excitement
yeah,
of the classics for many people.
yeah,
And then obviously De Ronde, Shoulder
yeah.
Price, and then Paris. Like, yeah, just that's an insane, like, just
Yeah, for me, it is a really funny one because I'd always been pretty good in the 1 day races in the
mm,
past at a lower level. So at the point one level and even point pro, I'd taken some reasonable results and done enough to be noticed by this team. But I'd also shown a bit in stage races, and my program in the past in any team
mm,
has been pretty versatile because sort of a rider that can be used anywhere and not really specific to anything. It's just happened that this year I wasn't planning on doing so many classics. I was always going to do 2, 3, or 4 just to fill in amongst uh, the rest of my program. But it just happened that our best classics riders ended up getting injured or sick, and we ended up quite short on riders. So then all of a sudden I was doing a few more, and then I was going reasonably well at the start of the classics campaign and doing a good job for the team. And then all of a sudden it was, okay, you're doing Tour of Flanders now and the lead up races to that. And then it ended up also being that I was doing, like, because I did a good job in Flanders, then it ended up being that, okay, now you're on the start list for Paris-Roubaix. So it was very last minute call up for that. But it's pretty amazing that I got the opportunity to do those races, because they are the ones that everyone watches, like particularly Paris-Roubaix. It's not something that I'm particularly well suited to. I'm not a big guy with massive watts, and I'm generally someone that's better in the Ardennes style races. But just the team dynamics and the circumstances meant that I was called up to that. And really, it's a bucket list race, I think, for any cyclist. And to get to do that and complete the race despite having some of the worst luck I've had in any race, it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, maybe that's Mathieu gave all his bad luck that he could possibly have over to you as well. So you got double.
Yeah, well, they say I had was my advice, is like something bad will always happen, or you'll always have some kind of hiccup. Everyone does in Roubaix, and you just have to keep riding, and things can go wrong. And then just seemed like they say everyone has something go wrong. He didn't have a single thing go wrong. I don't even think he hit one cobble the wrong direction. Whereas I managed to have so many punctures and just so many mishaps. But also in some of the other classics, I just had a lot of bad luck, just badly timed bike changes, or just a few crashes here and there as well. But I think that is just this kind of racing, and it's also just about being able to deal with that and be able to come back. Like, you see, even the best guys are having bad luck here and there, and things going wrong, but they're able to come back. And even if it's not in a few weeks or a few months, even if it's the next season, they're still able to come back. And I think in this kind of sport, if you throw the towel in when things don't go your way, then you have a pretty short career.
Yeah, definitely. So what's on the cards for the rest of the season? What are your ambitions? I mean, I'd say riding 2 monuments is, I'd say that's a pretty good and heavy season already. But well,
it's
what
funny
are you
that
focusing on?
The original goal was for the spring for me was the Ardennes, because I performed pretty well in Amstel Gold last year. But the plan now has changed, just because I had to do so many of these classics, and I had a couple of crashes, and the body's just in bits basically. So makes more sense to have a rest rather than just completely destroy myself and be cooked for the rest of the season. So I've had to change that around a little bit. But now it will be the main focus right now is rest, and then coming back to some of the slightly lower level classic style races. So I'll be doing like Eschborn Frankfurt, I think, is my next big race. So that's World Tour level race still. A bit more climbing in that. So it is a race that suits me a little bit better, in that generally it's not just pure watts, it's a bit more on the watts per kilo side of things, but still usually a punchy kind of rider is one that excels there. So that should suit me. And then stuff like 4 days of Dunkirk, which is just basically it's six stages now, but that's coming up soon after, which is more just classic style racing. And then a lot of these Belgian 1.1s and 1 pros. So a lot of the similar style races, but I'm really looking forward to using the experience that I got from racing against the best guys in the world, seeing how that kind of peloton operates, how it moves, seeing that I'm still capable of influencing that race, and then being able to take that confidence and skill set and use it at a race where you've suddenly taken out like those top 20, 30 classics riders aren't going to be racing 4 days of Dunkirk, for example. Like they're preparing for the Giro, or they're preparing for Tour de France, and they'll have their big goals. And so basically I'm looking for the similar style racing, but without the very top tier of riders, and then in those races, I'm capable of getting results, and also our team as well. Like we were able to get top 20 in both the last two monuments, which for us was our goal in those races, because we know that the level is so high, and our top tier classics riders also were out with injury. So the rest of us kind of had to scrap through and do that job. But when we get our best guys back, and we also have the same team at these next races, we'll be looking to win them or be on the podium at most of those races. So then the goals change a little bit as well for all of us.
Oh, nice. So, I mean, there's so much we could have talked about. Time, unfortunately, is getting the better of me. We'll have to do a follow-up at some point,
Yeah,
because I
no
think there's
worries.
so much that we've left on the table. But as a sort of final parting gift, like, how can people follow you on social media or follow the team, like, and keep up with what's going on with you?
Yeah, so if you search up Cyrus Monk on any of the social media, there's not too many Cyrus Monks out there, I think. So you should see me pop up. So the handle's pretty easy to come by. And then I'm doing a little bit of my own stuff on YouTube as well, starting up. I've been too cooked between these races to edit anything, but I've got a few recordings done. But basically, I like to talk training and racing with my colleagues, my teammates, and then cyclists from other teams, coaches as well. But for me, I just like to be able to communicate what we're actually doing at this level, what's helping riders get to this level. I don't see myself as some alien, but I see some riders as aliens, that they're just built different and able to do crazy things. But
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I'm a regular guy that's just got here by doing as many things right as possible and doing the hard yards to get here. So I think if I can share that with other people so that they can pursue the same dreams, whether it's racing Paris-Roubaix or whether it's trying to beat their mates to the cafe on a social ride, I think just being able to share that it's a sport that does great things for people no matter what level that they're at. So if I can help help people enjoy it more, then that's a good thing for me as well.
Awesome. Well, links and sort of snapshots of those will have popped up and will be in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll have. Thanks everyone for listening. It was a great chat. I hope you agree. Do let me know how you feel about it. Let me know your thoughts, comments, otherwise. He's just a really nice guy. I'm so pleased that I got to chat to him. Hopefully there's a follow-up in the future. And we can explore a bit more about his career so far, because it's not exactly straightforward. And I love that fact, because not everyone's journey has to be straightforward. There's so many ways to get to the top. And I think what he did at Roubaix, just by battling on and finishing, is so incredible and shows such fortitude. So it's a story I had to tell. Got some great interviews coming up, I'm sure. So give them a listen. And we'll see you on the road next time.